Another season over, which means it's time for another book haul. We're now in early summer, so all of the books that I purchased over spring, so March, April, May, are all here with me. I'm going to tell you what books I've hauled, I'll let you know if I've read them, and then at the end I'll do like a bit of to sort of keep myself accountable, and because I do go for full transparency, I will also talk about spending as well as like where I'm at for the year. Because while I don't put book buying bans on myself, I have this year tried to be a lot more stringent with my book buying. So I'm like, I won't restrict how many books I buy, but I do kind of have more of a mentality at the minute of I will only buy books that I'm genuinely excited for, and I'm trying to buy less impulse books because I do have a tendency to buy books that I'm maybe not so excited about. That being said, there's certainly one that I'm looking at in the corner of my eye that I know was definitely just like a holy crap, you never see this in charity shops, I'm getting. But I'm not going to do it in like chronological where I got them from, but I am going to do them in sections. So I've got books that I've purchased from the works, books that I got from pre-orders, my charity shop books, and then some manga that I picked up just on a whim. And I'm going to start with the ones that I've picked up from the works. So the works, if you are unaware, is a shop here in the UK. A lot of the warehouse surplus books end up there. A £9.99 paperback for £3. And they've recently increased the price. It used to be 3 for £6. It's now gone up. I think it's 3 for £7 or £7.50. But they do an amazing deal there. So, you know, they're cheap as chips. Unfortunately, I try to not go there too often because, you know, the author doesn't get as much revenue doing it that way. But, you know, when needs must and you don't have a ton of money, it's just somewhere that I can pick up certain books for a bit cheaper, and it's where I tend to get most of my romance, to be honest. From the works in the last 3 months, we have 4 books. 3 of them are Hannah Bonham Young's. Last year I picked up Next of Kin, and then I've heard such great things about the author that when I saw Out on a Limb and Next to You were in the 3 for whatever deal, I picked those up, and then I just picked a random one up. But we have Out on a Limb, which I have read. It was 5 stars and is one of my favourite books of the year so far. I said it in my Easter reading vlog. I will say it again here. This is how to write a healthy, communicative romance. And for me, this is how to write romance in general, just perfection. One I haven't yet read is Next to You, which is the sequel to Next of Kin. I have now read Next of Kin, so I will be getting to this soon, hopefully. She buys a school bus with the intention of, what is it, to make it her home, and she recruits this guy to help her, and then they fall in love. And then when I was away for Easter, we went into the works and I saw Out of the Woods, which is the sequel to Out on a Limb and is also a special sprayed edge edition. So I was like, I kind of really want to pick that up. This follows the best friends of the main characters in the first book, and they're going through a bit of a relationship crisis. They've been married since they were sort of 17, 18, something like that. They are now nearly 30 and they're going through a bit of a crisis of who are we without each other kind of thing. Especially she's going through that, and they end up going to an outdoor couples retreat, which neither of them are particularly excited about because neither of them are particularly outdoorsy, and it just leads to a lot of revelations. I did really enjoy this. I gave it 4.5 stars, and it's why I have now fallen in love with Hannah Bonham Young as an author. And the other one that I picked up was You've Got This. This one, I will admit, was a bit of an impulse buy because I purely picked it up mostly because I really liked the cover. It kind of gave me spring vibes and I intended on reading it in spring. But it was also just because I kind of felt like reading the blurb, I resonated with the main character. Because she's like, it says, Fleur French does not have the best of luck when it comes to life and love. Her boyfriends only ever seem to like her when she acts like their idea of a perfect partner. So when she finds herself single, jobless and homeless, she has to decide if she's ready to finally be herself, if only she knew who that was. Certainly not my last relationship, but the one before it. Oh boy, I was constantly trying to fit into what I thought him and his family wanted from me, and I became so unlike myself that I kind of forgot who I was. Certainly towards the end of the relationship. But obviously I went through that period of being one fell swoop. I went from being engaged, living in my own home with a really good job, to homeless, living with, well, technically homeless, but I did move straight in with my family. But, you know, technically I was made homeless. I lost my job. I lost a lot of my friends. I lost my partner. It wasn't a very good time, and I feel like this one is probably gonna hit a few of those memories in a way that I would probably rather they didn't, but I'm still willing to give it a go. Next up, just because they are next in the pile, we have the manga. So I recently did a video explaining that I was going through a bit of a mental health blip. I am improving. I do feel that I'm coming out of the worst of it, but you know, the fact of the matter is I am still having a bit of a blip. I am still struggling a little bit. But one of the things that I did do as a bit of self-care was buy some manga. Mao Volume 4 and 5 by Rumiko Takahashi, and I've read both of these. Volume 4 got 4 stars, Volume 5 got 3.5. I'm still enjoying the series, although I'm worried it's about to go away. I really don't want it to, and I'm praying that it doesn't. And then I bought the next 2 omnibus for One Piece, because when I was in Australia I did decide to make use of the library system over there. It is so much better than ours. And I read the first 12 volumes and like the East Blue arc. So I'm now into the Baroque works, and we've got volume 13, 14, 15. I have read 13 and 14. 15 is on my June TBR to get to this month. And then I also have 16, 17, 18. Essentially, I want to get this arc and the next arc done before the next season of the live action releases. Netflix have said that it will be 2026, which I'm a little bit like, really? They wrapped up filming months ago. Why is it still going to be another year? That's a bit annoying, but also, you know, that's just how these things go. So it is my aim to just try and get at least 1 or 2 more arcs done before then, so I can be ahead of the live action at all times. So I decided to treat myself to those, and I used some Waterstones credit that I'd saved up from my plus points from last year. These were on sale for £4 each. These I only spent about £2 because I had my £20 credit. So I ended up with those, and I've read half of these. Next up are my charity shop books. We have They Bloom at Night by Trang Tan Tran, which is one that I deliberately bought because it looked interesting even though it isn't my usual genre. And I have decided this sort of September, October for Halloween, I am going to try different flavours of horror, and I'm going to do a series of vlogs where I read between 2 and 3 books for each of the subgenres of horror that I've picked out. And I have picked this one for eco horror, so very excited for that. We have, I haven't got the cover on it because it's in a box being protected, but The Cat Who Saved the Library by Sosuke Natsukawa, mainly because it has these really super cute sprayed edges. Look at the kitty, look at the kitty, cute the kitty. So we have these really cute sprayed edges, and the main cover has got like foiling on it. It's really pretty. Did not know this was middle grade when I picked it up. Would I have still picked it up? Probably yes, because it's cats, but I feel like this one I'm going to be saving for next year. If it runs, then I'm going to save this for the Cat Lady readathon. We have Where Shadows Meet by Patrice Caldwell, which is a debut sapphic vampire romance thing. Vampires aren't always a trigger for me. They're a bit hit or miss, but you know, it sounded really good and I have been really intrigued. I think this one was supposed to come out last year and I was really intrigued, and it's taken a while to release, so now that it's out I was like, I'm gonna get this. And speaking of vampires, we have A Cruel Thirst by Angela Montoya. This is a vampire and a vampire hunter. She is a vampire hunter. He is a vampire that has been recently turned, only they realise that even though they're supposed to be enemies, they may have a spark there. And just that cover, it's a contender for one of my favourite covers this year. I love it. And then we have Boys with Sharp Teeth by Jenny Howell. The only thing that I heard about this before I decided to get it is that it is kind of Raven Cycle-esque, only she is more bent on revenge. You've got the elite school, you've got like the clique of boys, only this character, something internally happens. Her cousin, is it her cousin? Her cousin? Yeah, her cousin's dead body is found on the school grounds. So she ends up infiltrating as a student in order to find out what happened and get revenge. Sounds pretty cool. And then the most intimidating one of all of these, it came through the door, I opened it and went, holy shit, did not realise how many pages this tome is the Raven Cycle. No, The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. Yeah, this one's chunky. It's 600, 700 pages, something like that. 650 pages. Did not know it was going to be. It's another one where I've taken the jacket off to keep it safe while I'm moving it around the shelves and showing it. It's kind of like the Emperor has either died or has stepped down, and there's now a tournament where these people from these different like factions compete against each other to determine who's going to be the next emperor, and shit goes wrong when one of them ends up deaded. And now they gotta figure out before they're all deaded. So that one sounds really cool. It definitely sounds like something I'm going to enjoy. I just need to actually like give myself time to find it, to get to it one time. I then have only two for like ebooks and audio. So on audiobook, I have cancelled my Audible subscription now, and I used my last credit on Blackheart Nights by Laura Eve. I've been listening to this as part of my Bookishly Compatible series, where I'm reading my friends' favourite books to see how compatible we are as bookish readers, and can I trust my friendships, or do I need to maybe make new book friends? And I've been listening to that one. I'm about halfway through, thoroughly enjoying it. It's a very positive start, I will say. It's basically an Arthurian retelling, only it's in a sort of futuristic setting where the knights ride motorcycles and take part in tournaments that are broadcast around the country. And we've sort of followed two timelines with an up-and-coming knight in the present day, and then following Art's ascension to the throne and his early days as king. And then gradually, like, the timelines are getting closer to each other. Very much enjoying that. And then there was one sort of stuff your Kindle type event, and honestly, this event ran last year as well, and when I went through, pretty much all of the books felt the same, and I wasn't really excited by any of the books. The only one that really caught my eye was called Echoes of Elnia, and I can't even remember what any of it is about. Oh no, I bought more. I forgot about that. So this is a fantasy short story collection. The main reason I picked this up is for the R Fantasy bingo board prompt. I do have a video coming soon, because a couple of months ago I did a predictions video. I've now done a follow-up to that with like what were the actual prompts and what have I chosen. I forgot I had this, but I do remember I was like, fantasy short story collection is only 100 pages long. I should be able to get through that quite quickly. But then I've just realised they did a sale and I had 2 credits left, so I just bought 4 books in the Audible sale. So I've also picked up The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke, because I am interested, and I know it's part of the Sapphic trilogy thing, like the Sapphic trifecta. So I've picked that one up. Then I got The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. It's got epic fantasy to do with wolves, and someone's drawn in, like the main character is drawn into this tangled web of conspiracy and war, and I'm learning that I quite like stories where the main character is kind of pulled into a situation that they don't really understand fully, and where reality isn't as it seems. I have realised I do quite like those books, so I thought I'd take a chance on that one. And then while I was there, I was like, the third and final book in the Little Thieves trilogy by Margaret Owen was part of the deal, so I picked that up because I already own 1 and 2. So I have Holy Terrors, which is the finale of the Little Thieves, and as you know, Little Thieves last year was my book of the year. And then I also, because I know a lot of people have read and loved this book and I am slowly becoming more and more intrigued by it, I have decided to pick up The Lies of Locke Lamora, because in the last year I've read books that have got kind of similar-esque vibes and realised I really enjoy that kind of style. So I've gone from like really hating heist books to now I really enjoy them. So hit me up with some heist book recommendations. I've read Six of Crows. Preferably not contemporary though. I would prefer fantasy and prefer sort of maybe historical. But yeah, heist books, hit me up. And then finally the biggest stack in this pile, charity stack. I went on holiday to my dad's. I always end up picking up a ton of books. I'm not going to talk through what these are all about. If you want to know more about these books, do go check out that vlog where I give a much deeper, in-depth talk about them and talk about their blurbs. But the first one was Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldry, sequel to Legends and Lattes. I have it on my TBR for this month and I'm very excited to read more from the author. Away with the Penguins by Hazel Pryor. I picked up the sequel to this not knowing it was a sequel a couple of years ago, and when I realised that it was a sequel I was like, oh well, I'll just try and get the first book at some point. So when I saw it, I was like, gotta do it. A grandma going to Antarctica to study penguins. Yeah, sign me up. I've got The Trust by M.H. Eccleston, and it's apparently cozy crime, which is, I want to try more flavours of cozy, because I've done like cozy fantasy, I've done cozy contemporary, like the translated cozy healing fic, so now it's time to try some cozy mystery and murder mystery. I've got Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. I've heard a lot of really good things about this and it's one that I have been on the lookout for, so when I saw it I was like, mine. Wanted to grab a few romances. I've got one that I don't even think I'm actually going to get to anymore. I kind of want to get rid of it after hearing a couple of Scottish reviewers say that it just is not great, and that is The Kilt Trip. It's an American writing a book set in Scotland and that doesn't typically go very well. I'll probably wait until there's an inevitable movie with it and watch that. Chloe Lee's The Behrman Brothers or whatever it's called hasn't really intrigued me. I did consider, when I was at Wren's, they had them all. I did consider reading them and then I was like, actually I'm just not interested. However, this is the start of a new series that follows a set of sisters. It's in that same world and that same universe, but it's the sisters instead. And I'm not gonna lie, it was cover inspired by especially that tattoo, just so cute. I thought I'll give it a try. We have like a historical, I don't know if it's a romance or not, but this is No Life for a Lady by Hannah Dolby. She doesn't want to follow the conventions of her time period, and there's also an element of someone in the family, I believe, died and she's like trying to find out who and what. I believe, I could be wrong, but I thought I would give that a try. And then we have another history, but this one is a murder mystery. Again, did not realise that this was, I think it's book 4 in the series, but we have The Devil's Feast by MJ Carter, and I just really like the cover of this one. I like all the different cooking elements around it, and it's got all like the different utensils. It has a map. Apparently it's got like Sherlock Holmes and John Watson vibes, so that intrigues me, and I have realised I do quite like detective series and things, so this one could be interesting. But like I said, this is book 4, so I'm contemplating if I should go back and read the first 3 or if I can read this as a standalone. So I'm gonna like do the Googles, or if you guys have read the series and know, can I read them out of order, or like does that matter? And then the final things that I've picked up were literally just last week. I had a very unfortunate trip to the hospital. I'm doing okay now. The antibiotics have done their work and all of the follow-up scans and consultations all came back clear. It's just something that I'm going to probably have for the rest of my life, and occasionally it's going to cause problems, but it's not anything big and scary or, you know, something that is potentially life-threatening, which is very good. But while I was there, they have like a little shop as you go into the hospital, and it's kind of a bit of a mixture of a charity shop, but also I think people make stuff to sell in there. And I saw that they had some bookshelves, and the one that drew me in, that I was like, have I ever been interested in this author? No, because I've heard quite a few problematic things in regards to plagiarism, the very creepy relationship with this potential aren't they siblings yet still falling in love with each other. But I'm not likely to see this anywhere else for as cheap, and that is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare, the hardback edition at that. So £22, I got it for £1. I was like, well, this is a completely separate series. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything she's ever written before. And so I figured if I'm going to start reading her stuff, I might as well start with her adult fantasy that's way more like what I would want to read. And I have heard a lot of good things from people who haven't enjoyed previous works by her. Like, it's no offense to any of you if you do love the Shadowhunters and if you do love her writing, but in regards to that, I'm more likely to trust someone who previously has critiqued it and hasn't enjoyed it, that then says that this is fantastic and really well written, than someone who's a diehard fan. Like, I wouldn't expect people to trust me with Nalini Singh necessarily, because it's like, I am a diehard fan. She could probably write rocks and I would say it's amazing. Same with V.E. Schwab. Whereas if someone who previously didn't like V.E. Schwab or Nalini Singh is like, hey, this is amazing, I'm going to be like, yes, it is, right? It's just that same thing. And I have seen a couple of people who have mentioned, you know, that this is actually well worth it and really good. But it's yet another like 600-page book. I keep saying I need to stop buying big books, and then I buy big books. And then the very final one is one that I've kind of preemptively bought ready for the festive season this year. It's an author that I've read 2 books for so far, really enjoyed her as an author, and that is Heidi Swain. And I was just like, well, why not? I've got 2 or 3 books upstairs that I didn't get to last year, so at least now I've got a little stockpile for this year to pick from for festive reading. And yet another year of, will I ever enjoy festive romances? We shall find out. And I believe that is it. So when I look, that made 6 books in March, 15 in April, 2 in May, which brings me to 39 books total acquired for the year. I have read 3 of those books so far. The manga hasn't counted in this stat. I'll talk about that in a second, because I do track manga and books differently. And the total cost that I've spent on books for this year is £122.41. I don't think I'm doing too bad. And then in terms of manga, I have bought in 11 manga volumes this year to the total of £46.99. Again, I've been using Vinted to get quite a few of my manga. I've not really bought much brand new, and when I have bought new from, say, Waterstones, I did use my vouchers and my plus points balance from last year. But if I add that to that, in total I have spent this year £169.40, which means that my average that I've spent on a book so far has been £3.38. That's not too bad. I am not going to yell at myself for that. Admittedly, going to yell a little bit because the whole point of this year was to try and be a little bit more conscious. And like I said, some of these were a little bit more impulsive than I would have liked. But you know what? I'm not going to dwell on that, and I'm not going to punish myself. Let me know in the comments, did you purchase any books over the past few months? If so, what are you most excited to read, or have you read most of them already? Always love to hear from you. In the meantime, I hope you're all good. I hope you're staying safe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.